Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE podcast. Today we're going to look at 30 years of MRE.
Just the two of us today.
It is Peter Hooymans and I'm Stephen Fitzsimon.
Hi, everyone.
So I think you know the.
Can I have the 30 years back?
If I get the 15 years back, then you can have your 30 years back. We'll strike a deal.
So we're just going to. I think we're going to just talk a little bit about the history and a few stories. Did I tell you about this? I got a LinkedIn message yesterday.
Yep.
And I need my glasses, so I'll just...
Didn't need them 30 years ago.
No, I didn't. And it's from a client. He won't mind me mentioning him. He's actually also opened his own estate agency, but his name's Tony Van Fuller. And I remember Tone really well. But his message says, "Hi, Pete, great to spot you on LinkedIn. You sold me a block that I built my first house on in 1990. Hope you're really well." And then I said, "Yes, mate, remember it well. You were engaged at the time and you had a big white truck." And he just replied, he said, "Your memory is impeccable, that truck." So what are we, 2000? So that's 34 years ago.
Yeah. And
we're still, so that's, I've got to say I was a bit chuffed that he...
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah. That's a long
He's
time
remembered
ago.
your name. You've left an impression.
Well, yeah, I mean... We're going to. I think the context of this little chit chat really was that you move through time, and we've achieved all these things in the business in the last 2 decades. It goes back further than that, obviously, but we're also very shortly going to celebrate our 30 years in business with a what I think is a pretty exciting campaign. A special little graphic lockup. Should I say what the graphic? No, or should we wait for it to
wait for it?
We've got to wait, don't we?
You've got to keep
We've got to wait till we show everyone.
Yeah.
It's a celebration of 30 years of managing property, 30 years of selling property, and we've done everything from house and land packages to luxury, the Villaggio, if you remember, in about 2000, luxury estate in Toorak.
Yeah.
To our building in South Yarra, which is still our office.
Yep.
Which I'm roughly guessing. I should know the exact day, but I'm going to say we started selling that in around 2004.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, they had to come to fruition. You would have had to get the sales done before they could start turning the soil over.
But the 30 years. I mean, highlight how many years are you now?
15.
15. What's what stands out for you in that time?
I think expedited growth is the thing. It seemed like every month we had a new staff member starting.
Every month or week?
Month. Well, no, month. I reckon month's fair. But I was.
Oh, you mean over the whole?
Yeah. Because more recently, you for growth, it's you're putting them on a regular basis, and there's a bit of turnover, so there's always people going on. But initially, we were just putting people on, and they we just kept needing them, so we just had to keep putting them on. And then there was more property managers, and then there was more sales staff, and there's more of this and more of that, and then we needed more space. Like if you think when I came on, I was the 7th employee.
Yeah,
there was
where was our office then?
In SXY.
Was, okay.
Yeah. And it had been open for 12 months, I reckon, if that.
Yeah. Because when we first started, we were in, it was about the size of this studio we sit in now. Yeah. Which is, I'm going to guess, at about 15 square metres. And it was myself. In fact, it was one desk that I shared with Anne.
There you go.
Yeah. It was, so...
She would have been cleaning up your end.
And we had one phone.
Messing up hers.
And... I'm pretty sure I had a car phone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there was no phone in the office. Like you didn't carry a mobile phone.
No.
It was in the car. It was hardwired.
But
Do you know
around
what I
that
mean?
time,
Like
yeah,
it was,
absolutely.
Like, it wasn't
with
like-
the spiral cord.
I had a
on it.
brick as well at some point, but I was a Phillips. I used to love it. I used to think
Hmm.
I was so cool, sitting at the traffic lights. I'd actually sometimes just pick it up and just be on the phone like James Bond. No, seriously, it was cool.
quite right.
Yeah, I'm talking about something. I'm going to say I had it installed in '88,
Wow.
and I had that until we went mobile with a Motorola brick and then a Nokia.
Yeah, I reckon my uncle had a car phone in about 88, and I
Yeah.
thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah,
since
two
sliced
bucks
bread.
a minute.
Yeah,
Back in the
that's
day,
about right.
Which
Yep.
was extraordinary because I was spending more on the phone bill than I was making.
Yeah.
But I looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was worried about.
Yeah, that reminds me when I started in real estate. I'm trying to think of the year it would have been now. It was in the 90s, and I remember the sales manager was having a punch up with the principal because his phone bill was $800 for the month.
Yeah.
Do you know? So
I remember selling a property. Actually, it was a penthouse, one of the penthouses in the silos in Collingwood for the
Yep.
for the DIB boys.
Yes.
Blue Earth Group.
Yep.
And I was in Fiji, and I took the call to a guy named, I'll just say his first name, Terry. We've still got
Yep.
Terry as a client.
Yeah,
And I remember being on the phone to Terry for about an hour.
from Fiji on mobile.
And when I
Nice.
got home, Anne had steam coming out of her ears, and I was like, what have I done? And she said, $2,700 phone bill. I said, what? 27 was like about $9, I don't know,
Yeah,
some
it was a lot of
extraordinary per minute.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
No.
Yeah, we sold the property, but
Yeah, luckily.
yeah, so things
luckily
have
it
changed.
sold.
Things have changed a lot.
They have.
But 30 years of trying to get better.
Yep, constant improvement.
I've been, John McGrath, massive influence, as you know, as all of our team knows. We always speak about John.
Coaches throughout the whole thing.
And in addition to ARAC and Principals Workshop, Tom Hopkins seminars, Zig Ziglar seminars, Anthony Robbins seminars. I mean, all of them. I've been to all of them. And you and I have been to ARAC and others, a dozen times. But the training, as you say, then we've had, how many coaches have we had? So we had Human Equity we started with in 2004 or 5.
Yes.
Which that was probably the catalyst for real change. He was, in my opinion, he was one of our best coaches, Dave Brown.
Yeah. But
And
he's the one who started saying sell a building,
I
wasn't
was about to say it's a separate caliper. It's a separate podcast because he introduces to caliper and the power of caliper.
Right.
Which is, for those listening, psychometric profiling. So the power of matching your teams properly with actual data. But we started with Brownie in 2004, I'm going to say. Then we moved to, do you remember Rob Nankervis?
But wasn't there, what's the name? Sorry, forget me. The French lady.
Florence and David, yes.
So
Do you
Florence
know
was
how
with
bossy
David.
she was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember she would put it up on the whiteboard for a business improvement, and it was non-negotiable.
No, she just talked to you as
And if
like
you
a
didn't do
schoolchild.
it, like you got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
The next meeting,
Yeah.
like hard.
Yeah.
She's French,
Yeah.
little and French,
Yes.
and scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good summary.
She was a good coach.
Yeah.
Great coach. So we had Dave, we had Florence.
Do your homework.
We had
Rob Nankervis.
Rob Nankervis, who was, he was the. There's a fantastic business coach or business writer, if you like, named Vern Harnish, globally famous, and his book called The Rockefeller Habits is I'm pretty sure it was a number 1 on New York Times bestseller, and he pushed out his process, and Rob was he was the
It's like a franchise, wasn't it?
yeah, he
Was it
was like
something-
the Australian version,
Yeah.
the Australian licensee maybe of that
something like
methodology. He was another hard ass.
That was the A players.
Yeah. I mean,
was-
so
that
for
was
a
a
quick story
daunting
there,
first
it was also a pivotal point in the growth of the business, I reckon,
Definitely.
because Rob came in and said, let's name the A players. I'm going to say we were 16 or 17 people at the time.
I was trying to think just then how many you reckon we were, and that's
And he
about right.
wrote up on the board the A players, and then we had to all sort of vote who might be a B player and a C player.
Brutal.
Pretty brutal, yeah.
So what was the A player though, and the B player and the C
Oh,
player?
I remember him saying at the end of that day's that day's training, he said, "I'm back in 6 weeks for the next session. Everyone with a B next to their name will be gone. If they're not gone, I'll be gone." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I won't train you anymore." He said, "If you don't have the discipline to exit the B players, then I'm not going to train you anymore."
So C players were fundamentally poor. B players were not as good as the A's and would frustrate the A's.
Correct, yeah.
And
He explained it as how, if you've got an A player who is a star, who's doing great work, what's the best way to upset them?
Yeah, give them
Make them work with a B player
Yeah.
who can't keep up with them
Yeah.
pace-wise and ideas-wise, or, A players like to get things done, so,
They want to work with A players.
Yeah, can't keep up to the delivery, all of those things. So Rob was ruthless with that, but to our benefit. It was kind of odd though, because he was like, "Oh, I'm not coming back." I'm thinking, but hang on, I'm paying you, and it wasn't cheap. It was like $6,000 a session or something.
Yeah.
But he didn't care about the money. It was about
Well, if you're not listening, what's the point?
It was about the principle of improvement. If you're not, committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had him for a couple of years.
Yeah. And it was, I think we hardened up.
Oh, we did. We definitely hardened up. It was great. Then we moved to. Then we had leading teams.
Yeah.
So fantastic. I mean, and that was really off the back of a seminar I went to in Cremorne. I can't even remember who ran it. It was just something I went to. Alistair Clarkson was talking. Ricky Ponting was talking. It was about high performance teams, and leading teams at the time, I think, was doing some work with Hawthorn, Gold Coast Suns, maybe Collingwood as well.
Geelong, I think they did.
It was a Geelong, was it? Yeah,
and they did the
Geelong.
Opals. I think they did the girls.
Yes, the Australian netball team.
Yeah, Australian netball
That's
team.
correct.
Yeah. And something like
Yeah.
something else. They were impressive in terms of
So we had leading
the
teams.
groups.
That's what our third or fourth coach. And it's not like, it wasn't because we were difficult to work with or couldn't hold a coach. It was because I always felt that you needed that arm's length new view every so often.
Yeah.
Um,
Fresh.
And from leading teams, we went to, I think, one of our greatest coaches and influencers. It's actually hard to say who's great. It's a bit unfair, really. They've all been great. But then we had Centre for Leadership Advantage under Marcel.
Yeah.
Marcel De Sanctis and Leanne Norman, who were fabulous. I mean, Marcel's, if you're listening, Marcel, we miss you. You're unreal. Marcel's gone on to bigger and better things, but that was another shift in the business. I'm going to say maybe 50 people.
I think that's about right.
Yeah. Where I think 18 of the team at the time committed to that program, which was quite a heavy-duty program.
Yeah, that was interesting. Everyone bought into it. Everyone wanted to develop and grow.
Yeah, what's the point of all of that? People go, oh, geez, you're lucky, or you're this, or you look at the size of the team and the rent roll, but they forget about the 25 years of coaching invoices, the 25 years of hard graft, and the meeting, just so much
Hard decisions,
buying offices, fitting offices out. I remember having a fight with Florence, our coach at the time, because you might remember this, I'm not sure, because I didn't want to buy a server.
Oh wow! I think there was a server I think we had a server in the back room when I started.
And then I remember having another fight with her about buying a second photocopier.
Right.
Because we'd grown.
You wanted one and she didn't want you to have one?
She said, "There's 23 people. You can't all use this one $1,200 photocopier," which was this little crappy. It took half an hour to copy
print a couple of pages.
Yeah. So.
That was hilarious. Photocopiers used to be an amazing part of your office. It used to be, $20,000 on a photocopier.
Oh, more. No, more than that. For 50 for the big ones. I think we had 4 or 5 of them before COVID.
Yeah.
But so the point is, though, that every one of those coaches has pushed us in some way to improve over the journey, as well as the extra learning we've gone off and done ourselves with, the greats. Yeah.
But none of them were real estate coaches, though.
No, but we did that which was by design as well. Yeah, we've always wanted to be sort of non-traditional as far as real estate goes, and I think those coaches were really good for that, because a high performance team does it matter if it's real estate, netball, football.
No. Well, that's I think the evidence is in.
We've discovered it's universal.
Yeah.
The ingredients required. So
But you had the business exploded when you started going to Dubai, though. Like, that was before my time, and
that was probably our first. That was our first scaling opportunity.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, or for me at the time, that was about the time we had David Brown on as coach, and I remember him saying to me, so you sold 10 apartments, for example. He said, why can't you sell a whole building? And I remember looking at him, I said, no, it can't be done.
Yeah.
And he just wouldn't accept it. He said, what do you mean it can't be done? I said, well, I can't sell 100 apartments. And he just kept saying, why not?
Yeah.
That intersected very fortuitously with the timing of an invitation to go up to the Middle East and do a sales campaign via Austrade, actually, at the time, which, for those who don't know, Austrade is sort of the Australian government, trade conduit, if you like. So they were encouraging people to go into the region.
Connecting people up.
And then once I got there, I met a few really good old school friends who were fabulous in helping me connect up to some people. And it was just by chance, it really was. But I kind of think back as well, had I not gone, you never would have, you don't know.
No.
But certainly the Dubai experience from 04 to, I'm going to say, about 07, 08.
You sell out a building, over 100 apartments.
We used to do $60 million in sales in 6 weeks.
Yeah. It was astonishing.
Yeah.
And if you want to kickstart a business, being able to generate that type of revenue at that important stage of the business growth is essential, and then you can sort of feed off the back of it, because then it came on sort of to where I came into the business where we actually started growing a rent roll. So that
would have been the project we sold in Judd Street, Richmond. I think we sold, from memory, it was 110, and I sold all of them. Or I should say we sold all of them. Because we had George helping us on that, Georgina Melick, who's our steward, projects guru. And we sold that out really quickly. And then when it settled, I remember handing you the spreadsheet. And out of the 100 and something, there were, I know you know these numbers, 77 investors, is
75.
that? 75. And we signed up
74.
74.
Yeah.
How come you missed one?
Had his own agent.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I still remember every detail about it. Yeah. I was still dirty.
I wonder how he went.
I tried to get him for years, and we got him about 6 years later.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it took 6 years of outperforming the other agent before we could get him. And you know how I'm a pest.
You are a pest.
Yeah.
That's a good way to describe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a pest to him, reminding him
so
that we could have
I
done a
think
bit
the
better.
Judd Street, though, that was once we sold that in record time, leased it in record time. That was
a kickstart.
You've got to remember, this is 2005 or 6 or 7, roughly.
Yeah.
And I remember people saying 100 apartments in Richmond. That's crazy. Nobody is going to buy those.
They didn't make them. The only people who were doing those were
we had a very
Central
visionary
Equity.
developer there, in Richard Healy, who was a great, he was a really good, almost a bit of a futurist, I reckon, Richard. And he was ahead of the curve for sure. And that project led to the next project, which led to an introduction to Clement Lee, I think it was, and Macquarie Bank. And they had a lazy 450 apartments they're thinking of building in Richmond. And Yeah, the rest is
history.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
but it's gone from one building to multiple buildings to then a focus on a bit more reoccurring income as opposed to lumpy project income.
Yes.
Which has worked due to deal making.
Yeah.
And then now it's sort of self-feeding beast a little bit in that there's projects still being done, there's sales being made, the business is still growing and from a property management viewpoint.
Yep.
And it's also, if anything, at the moment diversifying a bit because the projects are smaller and fewer and far between.
Yeah. And we've gone from 250 under management to 4,000 in about, I'm going to say 12 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there'd be, organically.
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be too many.
We bought 28 properties.
I'm not trying to self-promote.
We bought
here.
28 properties, don't forget.
Yeah, we haven't bought a rent roll in that time.
Yeah.
That's like, we could talk about the history all day long, but I think that's probably
That's
probably boring enough for everyone listening by now, I think. But we've got more to talk about other day. We've got lots of stories.
There are.
We should tell some of them are
mischievous.
Some are probably R-rated. Spotify might put an R rating. It's okay. I want to tell them anyway because they're funny.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
See ya.